Association and the Gay Straight Alliance is holding Trans Remembrance Day for those lives that have been lost from the trans community. They are welcoming in meals for their potluck. If anybody wants to bring food, bless a bunch of queer students in our local community, should talk to George about that and what the details of that are. A very tangible, easy way to be good allies in the current climate, right? The other thing we have going on is on Sunday, the 23rd at 6:15, the church is paying for childcare and buying Wicked 2 tickets for folks. If you want to go see Wicked 2 with the church, you want to all sit together, tell Ferris, who just left with the children, or Jeremiah, Jeremiah, he's putting his hand up for a different reason.
The church is providing childcare, not providing.
Oh, JK, well, that's good to know. We are providing childcare. So if you want to go see Wicked 2 with everybody, cool, do that. If you want to go do your own thing because you haven't seen Wicked 1 and live in shame doing so, like myself, and Dee Dee, throwing you under the bus too, so I'm not so alone, then you can go do something else. But childcare will be here. That's in the normal kids ministry room. My third announcement is that at Refuge Church for community service projects, it's pretty cool in my opinion. It's helmed by you guys. So rather than the church being like, we're all going to care about this one specific issue, everybody get on board, go. The congregation is invited anytime during the year. If there's a organization that you already love to partner with, stuff that you're already doing and volunteering with, and you know that there's a need in the community and you want to get folks on board for that, you can tell somebody on leadership, so a member of the elders, a member of the board, and we'll get that checked through, make sure that we're able to fund that and that it makes sense. But then you put everything together, sign up sheets, et cetera, and then we provide the manpower, the people power, the money if that's involved. So for that to work, for this system to work, we have to tell you about it. So here I am telling you about it. That program has existed. We'd love if somebody took advantage of it and got everybody all on board to go do something in our community. That would be awesome. Those are my announcements. Where are we? In the church year, we are in Advent. Yay! People who love Christmas say yay. People who don't love Christmas go, cool. So this is called Dedicated Advent this year because there's the different, or go back, Chris, I'll give you, we're new to the slideshow situation. So me and Chris are going to develop a secret link. Secret psychic. That's hard to say. So we're talking about these different themes all over the world, all over this planet. Pretty cool. Global Christianity, since the 400s, has been talking about this particular season. We said last week, Advent historically meant that you fasted through all of Advent until Christmas. So thankfully, we don't do that anymore unless you want to opt in, go super ancient Christianity. That's your jam. Power to you. But for most of us, that means that there's these themes that we return to, these theological concepts that we return to year after year after year. And why do we do that? Because Jesus, when he came to earth, he taught us to walk in a different way, to be dedicated to different values. It's not just the overarching love God, love people, be a good person, be nice, that kind of thing. There's specific stepping stones that we want to be attentive to, that we want to return to, and keep our compass set to our true north and be dedicated to walking in that specific way in the midst of the chaos of this world, the chaos of whatever is going on in our lives. What kind of things can we remain dedicated to? So last week we had peace. We talked about peace, and this week is hope. So acknowledging, now for some of us also like peace, hope can kind of feel like a namby-pamby, kumbaya, kind of ineffective, nice feeling that doesn't really do anything, doesn't really accomplish anything in the world. For those of us who are really action-oriented and want to be out there and solving problems and doing stuff, the thing is, if the more privilege you have, the more real that feels, right? Of like, everything's fine here, and if I just have like good feelings And that's great. And you're aware of that leads to not having good policy. But hope is tangible and powerful and important when you have a loved one in the hospital who you desperately want to make through, when you have a loved one or you or yourself are detained in a detention center, right? Hope becomes incredibly important, powerful, especially as we see things outside of our walls change. So what is biblical hope? Well, we have two words here. One is from the Hebrew, one is from the Greek. So say tikva. You're familiar probably by the time you've been here for long enough that behind Hebrew words is always a picture. And the picture informs us what that word means. So tikva is this word, and the picture with it is a braided rope. It's a rope that's woven with tension is what it says there. So if you're familiar with fabric arts, you probably know more than me already, but if you think back to the, making friendship bracelets or whatever, you put, or you have a loom, you tie your fabric to the top, and then you have to keep it tense as you braid it together, right? So one of the things about biblical hope is it exists in tension. It says this is true, and also this is true. So the world is broken and full of suffering and chaos and darkness, and I don't want to know what to do. And also, God is real and God is good. And those things don't always fit together perfectly, but we can hold them both in tension. The other thing that a rope is it's useful. It's good for something. If you are somebody who works with their hands, you know this. If you're somebody who plays D&D and has never worked with your hands, you also know this. Rope is very important. It's useful. Our hope, if it's ineffectual, if it's just nice feelings and not something tangible that we can apply in our situation, it's not biblical hope. The next thing is elpis. Say elpis.
Elpis.
That is Greek for hope, and it means to anticipate with pleasure. So there's this joy baked into hope. It's not just wishful, I hope that this gets better, I hope that this turns the corner. It has more certainty with that, right? Because it takes certainty to provoke joy. So it's more like I am anticipating on Friday I'm going to go to Hawaii. I'm not actually, I wish. But I can feel already the sun on my face. I can see the beach in my mind. I can taste the shaved ice, right? That is elpis. So if we go to our next line, we can see some things that hope is not. We're talking about what the biblical definition is, illuminates for us what hope is not. So hope is not blind denial. Blind denial often sounds like, you've got this, right? It's dismissive. It's not holding anything in tension, right? If hope is saying this is true, and also I hold in tension this is true, blind denial can be used to harm people by saying, oh, it'll be okay. That means, oh, don't worry about it, which means, oh, please be quiet. Oh, please stop talking, is what, you're okay, don't worry so much. That is blind denial. It's not looking at what's outside. It's not being grounded in reality. It's just wanting everything to go back to a zen where nobody's bothering anybody else and nobody has any needs that would cause us to need to do something, right? We're trying to escape activity. We're trying to escape being engaged. Mere optimism is another thing that hope is not. Mere optimism often sounds like you've got this, which feels more positive than like you'll be fine. You'll be fine definitely feels like being shut down. But you've got this isn't necessarily tied to reality, maybe it is, but it's also not specific. It's not anticipating anything. Just saying, oh, everything will turn out okay in the end isn't necessarily addressing the root of what's outside, and is also not vision casting something real, something tangible that we can say, yes, I do choose to hope in that, right? Saying you've got this is different from I know that because of your life experiences, God has equipped you to be able to deal with these challenges, right? That's hope. Saying, you've got this. It's just mere optimism. Last thing hope is not is wishful manifesting. This can look like saying, I am going to say that at some point my boss is going to finally realize how important I am to this company. Finally, I'll be named Employee of the Month. Finally, I'll get that raise and promotion. Everybody will clap, right? Manifesting is pretty big in the world of millennials and Gen Z, especially white women. Manifesting is different than biblical hope. It's saying, yes, I see this thing and I'm just going to speak it into being. I'm going to wish that that comes true. That's not necessarily helpful, right? One of the things about the rope is it can be useful. So if it causes you to put more effort in at work, that's great. But the effect can often end up becoming insecure, sycophantic around your boss, just hoping for this moment where you're finally acknowledged, right? It doesn't necessarily bring out good fruit when we pick this one specific thing and then put all of our hope in it and wish that that is the outcome. Well, I think our next slide, there we go. Our zeitgeist has different messages about places that we can put our hope. Places that we can put our hope. If we want to have this biblical hope, we want to have this idea that we can hold two things in tension that helps us, that gives us joy to anticipate. Where can we place our hope? This is a list from our culture. Number one, super popular, absolutely nothing. Don't put your hope in anything. Hope is toxic, hope is rude, or hope is just uncool, right? The coolest thing is the chill Olympics around here in our culture. Who can be the most chill? Who can just be the living embodiment of the meme of the dog with everything on fire, being like, it's fine. That is what we strive for so often, which is a coping mechanism for chaos, right? We're doing that for a reason. It can be more painful to try to put your hope in something and then maybe see those hopes dashed than it is just to be cool. Just live with some cynicism, some skepticism, and say, you know, the world's just going to get burned out by the sun in a couple thousand years, so what does it matter if it happens a little earlier, like tomorrow? That is what it sounds like to say, I can place my hope in nothing. The second one is place my hope in myself. Surely I can pull it together. As soon as I start exercising, I start eating a little better, I get my medication figured out, I get my schedule revamped, surely any moment now I will be able to be successful in every possible way and just ascend into the sky as a fully fulfilled human being. That might be the undercurrent underneath some of our striving, some of our hope to say, no, I've got this. Once I finish this self-help book. And of course, as we talked about last week for peace, that ends up being a never-ending churn. A never-ending churn of like, oh, I'll just better myself a little bit more. Oh, I'll just get rid of all my microplastics, right? That's what we talked about. If it's a continuing sliding down a mountain slow, that's not holding things in tension, that's not being grounded in something that we can anticipate with pleasure, right? Others. This is similar to myself, but a little bit more codependent, right? If my boss just acknowledges me, then that's what I'm going to put my hope in. Sometimes if we're single, that can look like once I have a partner, everything will fall into place. Surely that's the only thing wrong with me. Of course, there's nothing wrong with you if you're single. It's just the narrative. And then it can, if you are partnered, this can also look like if my spouse would just figure it out and pull it together and load the dishwasher correctly, then everything would be great. Everything will be perfect. My spouse can just be better. Of course, that also sets us up for suffering and anger and lashing out, because if we believe that all of our ability to have well-being lies in another person that's extrinsic from us, that we really have no control over, even when we forget that and try to pretend that we do, we will also end up suffering, right? Constantly putting it on another person rather than ourselves, both of those things can lead to suffering. Politics is a fun one, all-consuming for some of us, in our devices, in our feeds, saying, oh, surely once this person that was voted in that's turned toward fascism is gone, then everything will be fine. Once my team wins, there will be peace on earth. There is something to put my hope in. And then maybe somebody else is elected and we discover like, oh, they hypothetically are super fine with genocide actually. And then our hopes get dashed, right? If we put in our hope in the biblical terms are like, don't put your hope in princes and horses, all of these different pictures in Tanakh remind us that human fallibility is going to be present always in positions of authority. So Many of us have probably experienced that hope crumbling at different moments across the years, knowing that politics is not what will save us. Science and technology is another one, depending on what sphere of the culture you are in. It feels like you don't have to worry about the planet getting warmer because we're going to find the solutions. I know we're going to get there. If that causes us to invest in the solutions, that's good, but sometimes we just cross our fingers and say, you know what, the super smart people are going to work it out. That denies my personal responsibility to do anything that's good, and I'll just sit here and twiddle my thumbs and say, I know we'll figure it out because we're an ingenious species. Sometimes we do, right? Sometimes we have the agricultural revolution and world hunger goes way down, and that's amazing. We love science and technology. We love vaccines. We love things that reduce suffering in the world and bring more ability to live and find flourishing across the globe. That's an amazing good thing. And also, sometimes humans invent nuclear weapons, and sometimes they invent sarin gas, right? So we can't always say the answer is going to be in science and technology, because sometimes a technology is invented, like AI, and then there's no regulations, and then we get to cross our fingers and say, well, let's find out what happens altogether as a species. So, not a great place to put our hope. Last one, humanity. This one is really popular, especially in progressive Christian circles, for pretty good reason, right? Because humanity is good. God created us good. We are created in His image, which means we have endless capacity for ingenuity and resourcefulness and problem solving, and also endless ability to have love and compassion. And so it feels countercultural and good to say, I know that humanity will figure it out. I know that humanity can pull it together and do the right thing. If we place our hope in that, which sometimes it is true, by the way, and good things on this list, other than nothing, I guess, all of these things are good, we will have our hope stashed and be sorely disappointed when humans use all of that ingenuity and charisma and power to create things like the Holocaust, right? If we say humanity can do it, and I'm going to stake all of my future on trusting in humanity, when we make choices which are toward the degradation of the world instead of putting the world back together, we will feel lost and say, I thought we were good, I thought we had this, how could it be that we are doing that? So if we want biblical hope, if we want to be able to be people who stand with reality and say this is true and also something further is true. We want to have a worldview that is useful. We want to be people who can anticipate with delight what is around the corner. Where can we find that hope? Well, the answer, Bible study, Sunday school, is always Jesus. Excellent. You can have the next slide there. Perfect. Now buckle up. I have to buckle up for Paul. The real reason I stay in Tanakh is not because of the Hebrew Bible, but because Paul was challenging. That's mostly a joke. So let's put this together. It goes from Colossians 1, 27 through 28. You can read along here on your device or actual Bible, whatever you like. But it says this: God wanted to make known what is the glorious wealth of this mystery amongst the Gentiles, which is Christ in you, the hope of glory, whom we proclaim, with all wisdom, in order that we might present every person complete in Christ. If you're like me, your brain turned off around make known. Like, those are a bunch of Christian words in a row. That's great. If you would like to read along with an outline, I put that in the Slack of the whole thing, but also this particular passage. So, God wanted to make known what is the glorious wealth of this mystery. First thing we can notice is the answer is a mystery. It's not something super tangible. Rationalist, empiricist, enlightenment people all sigh and want all of the answers and know X plus Y equals Z. First thing off is it's a mystery. Mysteries invite trust. Mysteries are a challenge that we have to have one another in community to try to figure it out, right? It invites trying to figure out too. It's not just a, well, it's mysterious, I guess we can never know it. So what is the foundation and fuel of this hope? This mysterious hope is Christ in us. Christ in you. Christ in me. Christ in us. So this mystery is a mystery which solves the extrinsic and intrinsic power issue, right? If I put all of my hope in somebody outside of me, I have absolutely no control in trying to get them to do what I want them to do. And if we put all of our hope in ourselves, we also continually experience that I was going to do this thing, and then I experienced depression, and I didn't do that thing. I guess that's the end of the story, and the yard will never be cleaned because I have failed. Right? It's Christ in us. So that's intrinsic. It's something close at hand. The kingdom of God is at hand. It's something within us. Our bodies are temples. That is not about tattoos. That's about the fact that God is within us, that the voice of God dwells in us, that the comfort of God, the joy of God, the Spirit of God dwells in our being. Romans 8 says that the same power that raised Christ from the dead dwells also within us. So that tangible ability to accomplish things in the world, to experience goodness in life, lies within us. That's the foundation of our hope, is knowing that God is accessible, God is at hand, God has chosen to come down and dwell amongst his people, not in some far, high off realm where we can only hope to potentially access if we read our Bible that way and check all of our boxes, right? God, in his humility and his love and compassion, nurturing, has chosen to come down amongst us. Foundation of our hope. Next thing, what is the hope in? What is the hope for? What is the hope of? It's the hope of glory. Now, if you're raised in a sad church, glory sometimes means, again, an ephemeral, like who knows, meaning, but also can sometimes mean the glory is when every knee will bow and every tongue will confess that Jesus is Lord. It's like glory is when everybody finally knows how amazing God is, which, yes, and if you can get there, that's awesome to be excited about. There's a lot of things that would take, right, like the cessation of evil for that to happen. So you can get there, but that's not what the word glory technically means. I'm going to stick in the Hebrew, and I'm going to say kavod. Say kavod. Kavod. Kavod means heaviness. Kavod means heaviness. It's a physical sensation. It's something that we experience. So glory is this sense of heaviness on our chest, on our shoulders. That is good. So what does that mean? For my film people, this is in the Two Towers. When the battle is going poorly at, where is that in Two Towers? Thank you. You all know, you don't need me. And all hope is lost, and the orcs are going to overwhelm the elves. And then suddenly Gandalf appears on the third day at dawn, and something in you goes, yeah! As he rides down the hill with all of the horses, crushing the evil, crushing darkness. That's glory. Sports people, I've heard, just kidding, but sometimes you get excited about stuff. It might be super back and forth the whole time, the whole 4 quarters or whatever it is. It goes into overtime, and then there is finally a touchdown. Something happens, and the crowd surges to their feet and roars. That is kavod. That's glory. That feeling of yes. That is present in the Bible. That thing that makes us feel alive. That thing that we were designed for. That we're created with the capacity to feel. That glory is central to the whole story in the Bible, and here in the New Testament we see that glory is a part of what God is doing in the world. When evil is finally put to rest, when suffering is finally broken, when the oppressed are set free, when the prisons are cracked open, when the dead are brought back to life, when the sick are healed, all of those things are things of glory, not just, oh, that's nice, but something that makes humanity go, yes, I know this is good. All of me, my body, my soul, my emotions, all say yes to this. So we're hoping in this glory that's coming, the glory of the world being put back together, the glory of Jesus returning, the glory of his kingdom being unveiled, right? We have the here, the already and the not yet is the church thing. That's what Advent is all about. Jesus is coming back. That's the not yet, but we have experiences of his kingdom here now. That's the already. So it's more of that, more glory is what we're putting our hope in. This truth that the story is not over, that whatever is winning out there right now isn't what ends the story, isn't what wins. How do we talk about this glory? How do we experience it with wisdom, right? This goes back to the reality of hope, of tikva, of the rope that's experiencing tension. It's our job to proclaim this, if we are proclaiming it, by the way, with wisdom. So it doesn't look like knocking down the front door and saying, you guys, don't you understand? Jesus is alive. Don't you know that when you read Revelation, it's so clear what's going to happen at the end of time. That's not doing it with wisdom, right? We want to be conscious of the ways we've been hurt by the, surely it'll all be fine. Surely you just need to pray more. Surely you just need to understand that you're actually okay, right? We don't want to perpetuate that harm in the world, and that's why with all wisdom is very important. And then what's the end game there? In order that we might present every person complete in Christ. So if I hear complete, sometimes I can think about check boxes like, finally, this person won't be an addict, or this person will have their life together, right? You can make the list. Some of those things can feel life-giving, some of them less so. But complete, going back to biblical images, this is the idea of wholeness. Completion, tamim in Hebrew, doesn't have to do with somebody finally having their crap together. It has to do with not having a broken leg anymore, not having a limp anymore, not being people who have an open wound from the church or from their life or from their relationships, but people who experience wholeness and completion, being exactly who God made them to be, in health and flourishing. Where? In Christ. Whew, Paul's doing a lot. We can only visit him every now and then, or else our heads would explode, or at least mine would. We have a couple of quotes. So the next one, N.T. Wright, many of us know Christian hope is not about leaving this world behind, right? That's the thing with not real hope, not biblical hope, is saying, like, don't worry about it. We're not going to be grounded in the now. We're just going to focus on heaven, right? We're just going to focus on our eternal destination and not the world. But about God making all things new in this world. It is the anticipation of God's new creation breaking into the present. So that's the not yet becoming the already. Right? We don't just have to wait for good things to happen. We don't have to wait for glory. We can fight for life. We can fight for goodness and justice in our communities and get to experience that new creation, that glory in the present as well. Next quote is from Freddie Beeks. He says, for Christians, hope is ultimately hope in Christ. The hope that he really is what for centuries we have been claiming he is. And that finally his work amongst us will not be undone, but will continue and prosper. That the kingdom really is on its way. Right? So this is talking about what is the end of the story? Jesus' work in the world. We return to that passage in Isaiah over and over and over, reading shame becoming joy, mourning becoming dancing. We sing that song about graves becoming gardens. That is what Jesus is doing in the world. That is what we can put our hope in, because he is who we have said he is. He is what his word says he is. He is redeeming all things and making all things new. And that work will not be undone ultimately, while the work of ourselves and politics and science can be undone. But it will continue and prosper, and the kingdom really is on its way. So last week we talked about, okay, if we have peace, we have this nice thing for ourselves. Is that the end of the story? And we talked about how having nice things isn't bad. Sometimes we can feel bad about, like, I'm going to cultivate hope for myself. And feel like, for some of us anyway, can feel like, oh, what more? What are we supposed to do after that? Surely it's not all about me. Well, actually, God does care for you and want joy and happiness for you. And it doesn't mean, just because we're people of action, doesn't mean that we also don't say yes to receiving good things from God. So what is hope, if we're able to find it in this story, in this narrative that God has been telling? What does that look like? Last slide here. What then? But since we belong to the day, let us be sober and put on the breastplate of faith and love, and for a helmet, the hope of salvation. So surprise if you thought the armor of God was only from Ephesians. Surprise, it's in Thessalonians as well. We just don't read that one as much. Who wants to belong to the day? Me. Putting on the breastplate of faith and love, right? So what protects our heart is trust and love, but what protects our head, our helmet, is the hope, the tikva, the elpis, of salvation, of deliverance, of freedom from oppression, right? Those words are all a part of salvation. So what then is that when we go out into the world to do all the things that we're doing, it's not just that we have a nice morning devotional practice that reminds us where God is driving this world and what kind of work we're invited to partner with him in, but we can also have this helmet on. It's a helmet with eye holes, by the way. It's not just like put a metal can on your head and walk around and run into street poles, because we want to do that well of holding reality intention with the not yet intention. But we can still guard our brains and guard our thoughts and guard our eyes, guard the narratives that we're believing in this world that's full of just give up. It'll be happier, honestly. It'll be better if you just understand that the world is descending in flames, and that everything is irrevocably bad. That's actually where peace lies, right? That's actually where hope lies. When we encounter that, saying, I know where that's coming from, I have empathy for it, I can feel that in some way, I have compassion for people who are in that place, including myself, I can understand it's a coping mechanism, and I know it's not the end of the story. And I know that there's more, and I know that God is doing something in the world, and I get to be a part of it, right? Because nihilism breeds languishing on the ground, breeds lying in the street, and saying, well, I guess there's nothing for me to do, there's nothing any of us can do. Hopefully somebody will save us, right? What then, as we go out into the world, ready to encounter the people of the world, our zeitgeist, our culture, Christian or otherwise, with this knowledge, with this groundedness that comes from this hope and delight that comes with this hope. So we're going to talk about this in discussion together. We're going to talk about, hey, if this is true, how do we go around and do this without being the worst? Without bludgeoning people over the head, including ourselves, with saying, no, it'll be fine, I'm not depressed, I don't have anxiety, whatever it might be. How do we do that well? And then we're also going to talk about which narratives from the world sound awfully familiar. If you choose to stay around for discussion, that's what we'll be talking about. But before that, I'm going to pray and I'm going to sing another song about what is really true, what is really unfolding in the world around us. God, I thank you that you care about this world, that you are not just floating around in outer space, fingers crossed, waiting for things to get better or get bad enough for Jesus to come back and have a cool moment saving everybody. You are intimately in this world. You are intimately in each of us. Your dwelling place is amongst your people. You are within each of us. Each of us are temples, places that we can meet you and commune with you and speak with you. I pray that that would become tangibly true for us, that it wouldn't just be a theological fact on the shelf of our brain, but that it would become a lived experience for us, something in our bones that we know that we are safe and that we have the ability to fight for what is good in the world because you are within us, because this ship that you are steering is going somewhere beautiful. That the people, the things, the forces in this world that are dragging toward chaos, toward hatred, toward division, that those forces aren't the forces that win. But indeed, we can already experience your resurrection within us, within our communities, within our tangible environments. You are unfolding always. And so I pray that we'd be people who are able to have sight for the temptation of nihilism, for the temptation of skepticism and despair and cynicism, that you would light that spark in our heart in the midst of the darkness to say, I think there's still something here. I think there's fire here. I know that God is still real and that He's still good. So I pray that you would be with us. Show up during this song, show up in discussion, greet us in this time. Pray that we would not find ourselves alone, but in the midst of community, in the midst of family, and in the midst of you. Pray all these things in your name. Amen.